How's it, everybody? How's it? My name is Kilo. Welcome back to the Chaos Effect Mind, or welcome if you've never been here before. This is a safe space. This is definitely a safe space. I know it's been a little minute since I've been on here. I can't tell you how many times I tried to record this podcast after my dog died, and I just couldn't. I couldn't. I don't know. I didn't have it. Not that I didn't have it in me, but I just couldn't. Like, I don't know. There's no other words to explain it, I guess. That dog, very special to me. Had her for 13 years, just about. And yeah, that was my daughter. That is my daughter, you know? So it took me a little minute. But yeah, I wanted to come back on here, say what's up to everybody, or to those of you that are listening, and also I go through these existential crises daily in my mind, and like mainly it's just me being silly and getting in my own way. Of course, we all do that, but sometimes I tell myself like no one gives a fuck what I gotta say. No one really cares what I gotta say, but I always remember that I could use my voice, and I know that my stories could bring healing to somebody else just as much as anyone else's stories could bring healing to other people. I just want to spread that message. And today I wanted to talk about cycles of abuse and what that means when it comes to interpersonal relationships, as far as friendships, relationships, coworker acquaintanceships, ships of all kinds. And yeah, so if you don't know, I'm going to read this from my screen. The cycle of abuse is a pattern often observed in abusive relationships where behaviors are repeated in a cyclical, I don't know, people say cyclical, whatever manner. This cycle can manifest in various types of relationships, romantic, friendships, and even professional ones. Understanding how patterns of abuse from childhood can impact adult relationships is crucial for breaking the cycle and fostering healthier connections. Okay? It is Lionsgate Portal 88, and also the year 2024 adds up to an 8. So today is a special, special day. I know people have mixed feelings / reviews about today, but I've always looked at Lionsgate Portal as an opportunity to grow, expand, become a better me. But that's every day, honestly. So today's really about. They say it's about manifesting and really trying to visualize and call in that life that you so desire, and doing that in a new way, in a new perspective, from the heart, and not from a place of lack, ego, or mainly lack. So you got to be super, super positive that and have faith that you're going to believe that and achieve that. And yeah, that's what today is all about to me, in my opinion. Also, today's Mercury retrograde, so we gotta bring it back. Got to bring it back. All the past shit coming up. Oh, my bad. All the past shit coming up. I've been thinking about, I've definitely been thinking about like cycles of relationships that I've had in my life, or people that I've had around. And it is interesting because a lot of them, they do share characteristics of what I went through when I was younger, and maybe how I was feeling but couldn't put a descriptor on it when I was younger. All right, so the cycle of abuse. The cycle of abuse typically consists of 4 stages. Okay, tension building, incident, reconciliation, and calm. So that's just it's the same as if you let somebody who you've known for a very long time, right? They did one thing similar to the other things that they've done before, right? They've apologized for it, they've reconciled, they've come back, they've said blah blah blah, they're gonna do different, blah blah blah, and then I don't even know, maybe a month later, a couple months down the road, it's the same thing. But like, those people will constantly come back and, in a sense, feel entitled and think or feel that they are deserving of another chance, and that they're just gonna take me back anyway. So I'm just gonna do what I do. And maybe it's not so conscious on the conscious plane, the conscious field, but subconsciously in their psyche, they're probably more than likely thinking that this person's always gonna take me back. They're always gonna be there for me. So I might as well just keep doing the things I'm doing and keep having the same habits without having to do any introspection on who I am as a person and what that means for my relationships surrounding me. So it's a very easy way out. I don't want to say it's a cop out, but you might opt for real. Psych not. But yeah, so tension building, basically stress and tension build up, leading to minor conflicts or irritability. The person experiencing abuse may feel anxious, like they're walking on eggshells. Okay. So that's just like with anything. If you feel like you can't communicate, you're not in a safe space to communicate, what are you going to do? You're going to walk around. You're probably going to end up people pleasing at the end of the day to form fit to someone else's needs, wants, etc. But what about you? You know, there has to be a compromise and middle ground in there. And an incident, the tension culminates in an abusive incident. This can be physical, emotional, verbal, or mental abuse. And all of these things do exist, whether or not you think they do, and whether or not you've consciously realized that they are present or around you. Because if you do look back, you know, and passive aggressiveness is, I feel like, is people's favorite form of creating an incident or creating just any form of incident where it stems into that abuse, right? Like people being passive aggressive, because in a way you're saying what you want or dislike or don't care for, but also you're like saying it in a way that it's seeming like you're okay with what's going on and not really mentioning it, but there's like this undertone of like aggression and resentment that's another layer stuck in there. And that the more you do things like that, and the more that relationship continues, the more that those layers compile. It's like just resentment. And resentment can be a heavy thing to not let go of. And it's just it's one of those things that if you truly don't forgive yourself, and if you truly don't forgive the actions of that other person when maybe they were being a little bit less of the person that that they can be, but we just knowing that we all go through those stages and cycles and moments where we all are not being the people that we know we can and are supposed to be by divine right. And we're all no one. I don't like the word perfect. I truly wish that word didn't exist, because perfectionism is another trauma response to not feeling good enough or worthy of the things that you have, want, and desire in your life. But yeah. Anyway, I got off subject there, but so after the incident, be reconciliation. The abuser may apologize, make excuses, or downplay the incident. They might show affection or promise it won't happen again, creating a sense of false security. So, that's like I was saying before, that's an abuser's favorite tactic. Like they like to do the thing, not take responsibility for it. They may rationalize. That's an abuser's favorite thing to do, is to rationalize shit, because it makes it seem like what they did is less bad in their eyes, and also it's to them it's like a form of apology, right? They don't fully take accountability for it. They don't fully take responsibility for it, but they are in some way owning up to it and like appeasing the other person by giving that apology or doing whatever else after that to make up for whatever they did. I know it's common in my family for money to be thrown at shit sometimes, even if like that wasn't a thing. Buying affection was a thing, it's nice for the moment, but it creates, that's a whole other situation and topic that I can go over. But yeah, anyway, after the reconciliation comes number 4, the calm. Sorry, we're not listening to Drake right now, but that's a great album. I'm just saying. The calm. A period of calm follows where the relationship seems to be stabilized until the tension begins to build again. Okay. So and this part would be the bliss, right? Like this part would definitely be the kind part where it just feels like you're on a high or in some kind of honeymoon phase, stage, whatever you want to call it. But it's a false sense of security. Remember that, and a false sense of all the things, because deep down we know in our subconscious that that incident will more than likely manifest again and come into fruition in a different way. And we want to deny that. We want to deny ourselves that right to trust our intuition. We want to deny ourselves that right to trust our minds. And again, all of it stems from our inner children and how we were raised and who we were around, what we absorbed when we were younger, and if we decided to take a fucking look at it and say, hey, I can be the change. I don't just have to say it, or don't have to just point out who's wrong or what all their flaws are, but I can be the change. So, childhood abuse and its impact on adult relationships. When someone experiences abuse in childhood, whether physical, verbal, mental, or emotional, it can leave deep, lasting scars. These experiences shape their understanding of relationships, self worth, and boundaries. I think about that because I think about like my parents, they didn't really have any friends growing up. Like they had people that were around. But then, I just feel like they would always either get in fights with these people and then never talk to them again. I don't know. We were just very separate from like our actual families as well. And anyone that was there, like I never really saw them with friends or people outside of just the immediate us. I think about that often, because I feel like over time and over life, it's been hard for me to connect with people on certain levels when it comes to having friendships or relationships. But again, it stems from an unworthiness of having someone's time and attention and affection and et cetera, et cetera. I definitely think about that a lot because I had a difficult I had a difficult time making friends in middle school, high school, all the way around. And it's not that I would have a difficult time making friends. I would have a difficult time cultivating relationships with those people that were supposedly my friends, I guess. And at one point I had a lot of drugs and money, so that probably had something to do with it. But nonetheless, I digress. And I wanted to talk also about how childhood abuse and its impact on adult relationships and which relationships those can show up in. Of course, they can show up in romantic partnerships, friendships, and workplace relationships. In romantic relationships, it can show up as difficulty setting boundaries. A history of abuse can make it challenging to recognize or enforce healthy boundaries, leading to a higher risk of entering or staying in an abusive relationship. And I'm definitely guilty of that because, and I try not to put the burden on the other person, right? Like I was talking about an old friend the other day, and I was telling my cousin, I was like, yeah, she blah 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 blah. And then afterwards, I was like, you know what? Actually, I wanted to change what I said because it was I had this friend at a time when my boundaries were not set. I did not hold a standard for her as a friend, and I was the one constantly allowing that back into my life. And she had just texted me the other day randomly as fuck, like it's been like 3 years. These things just come to mind because I was so available to all these friends. Like I would always show up for them, you know what I mean? And I'd be there in a heartbeat, drop everything. But that's just who I am, like you say you need help and I care about you, like, oh, where you at? Drop a pin. Like I'm there. It doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what it costs, like I will get there, and that's just how it'll go. So, I started thinking about that relationship obviously since she texted me. Yeah, man, it's just interesting, right? Like I didn't really, I wasn't going to answer her, but I did, and I just kept it really brief. She just said that it's been a while, and I was like, okay, Captain Obvious. It's like, no, I didn't say that, but I just told her I hope she was good too. Like, cool. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to be rude to these people. I don't have to be any kind of way. I don't have to pretend to be like we're cool, bro. We don't have to bring up the past, like that's cool. But also I don't have to sit here and entertain this shit anymore because it's just not who I am. And unless you're gonna be in my life for a purpose, or we're gonna do something and we're gonna heal this and figure it out, cool. But and love the girl, but giving you way too many chances is too much. It's done. Repetition compulsion. They might unconsciously seek out relationships that mirror the abusive dynamics they experienced as children. This could be due to a familiarity, a need to resolve past trauma, or internalized beliefs about what they deserve. And holy fuck, if I didn't do this in almost every relationship I had until I understood and actually healed, and I'm still, a healing's an everyday process. I'm not saying I'm healed as in I'm done healing. Like that'll never be done. Everyone sit down, relax. But yeah, so it's interesting because it is more of a unconscious, subconscious thing that you're seeking out these people, right? Like my parents were, not perfect. No one is, like I said all the time, but they definitely were more physical than they were verbal. Well, unless it came to verbal and mental abuse. But yeah, so they were more physical, and I've just found down the line that there were people that I kept ending up around or with, or by, that were dudes that put their hands on me and abused me in certain ways, and other things like that I'm not going to get into. But it is interesting when you relate it back, because it's like, holy shit, like we're seeking that familiarity, and that, like, and again, it's subconscious. We can say we want better, et cetera, but then somehow we keep attracting the exact same shit that we've been through before, the exact same shit we went through when we were kids. Like, it's that familiarity that, they say when you see somebody and you feel like you've known them before in a past life or something, sometimes it's probably because you did, and it's probably because you remember their bullshit. And, just to pay attention and use your intuition after that, if you feel that way. Because, yeah, man, people are out here for a purpose, right? Definitely out here for a reason. And best use that intuition, because the devil is always a lurking. So here this goes. So, and how abuse relates to its impact on friendships would be like a fear of conflict. They might avoid confrontation out of fear that it will lead to rejection or escalation into abuse, causing them to suppress their own needs and desires. Oof. I know I'm guilty of that in friendships. That's all you need to say about that. Low self-esteem. Those who endured verbal or emotional abuse, holy shit, might struggle with feelings of worthlessness, leading them to tolerate mistreatment from friends or gravitate towards controlling or domineering individuals. Yikes. Yikes. And I'm going to read the people-pleasing one because honestly, yeah, I feel like everyone has like an undercover people-pleaser embedded in their DNA. Okay, so to people-pleasing. To avoid conflict or abuse, they might go to great lengths to please others, often at the expense of their own well-being. That is a major, major one right there. At the expense of our own well-being. Why would you want to surround yourself with people who are only constantly thinking of their well-being over your own and not ever considering anyone else's well-being? You know what I mean? I feel like just by nature, I'm constantly thinking of other people's well-beings, constantly thinking about other people's needs, which can be a hindrance sometimes to me, especially if I don't know where to focus it. But, it's a gift and a curse. We be all right. Okay, so back. I can breathe now. So where was I? The way that abuse can show up in like workplace relationships as well. This one I find interesting. The submissiveness or aggressiveness, depending on how they learn to cope with abuse, they might either become overly submissive, unable to assert themselves, or overly aggressive as a defense mechanism to protect themselves from perceived threats, which I've definitely experienced working in the plethora of industries and places that I've worked and the experiences that I've had. I can say I've seen both sides of the coin. And overworking or perfectionism, a need to prove their worth or to avoid criticism, might lead to overworking or perfectionism, which can be a response to feeling never good enough in childhood. If you always went to your parents with something that you thought was exciting, you felt was exciting, and they just kind of point out the one thing that was wrong with it, or give you like a backhanded compliment, pretty much, being like, oh, this is good, but also this small little thing that you just did, this small, I don't like it when people are like, oh, you're with your little art, with your little creativity, your little photography that you do. I was like, why is it little? It's not little to me. Yeah, it's like a part of my world. Creativity can be my world, like 100%, like is my entire world. So when people are like, little this, little, they're just belittling shit because they're not brave enough to try to shit on their own. And I think that's really sad. So you get a lot of that. I work with a lot of like young kids, but I also work with like a lot of older moms and such. They're married, et cetera, but they have a lot of opinions on the world and how life should go, things like that. And I had this one lady, she's the one that said she slept in her car, and I like looked at her and I was like, what? And she was like, no, I have an entire house, I'm a whole ass adult. I'm like, I am also an adult, you know what I mean? Like, I live in a house, but just because I don't own a house and have a husband does not make me not an adult. Like, bitch, please, I've survived things you probably would have broke your spine for, or just walked away from in general. A lot of people probably would have, but I didn't. I kept going. When people belittle shit, that is a very much a projection of them and their insecurities and where they fit in this society and in this world, and how they feel about how others view and judge their shit and their situation. So don't let anyone belittle your anything at all, like Kelly Rowland said. And also difficulty trusting authority figures. If authority figures in their childhood were abusive or unpredictable, they might struggle to trust supervisors or colleagues, leading to issues with delegation, collaboration, or communication. And I can say that for one place that this was my major issue, probably, was at the coffee place I worked at as a barista. And it was tight quarters. We had a lot going on all the time. Those are high stress environments, and if you don't have a lot of space and you're not working with the right people, it can be overwhelming. You can all get aggressive, and then everyone's energy is just bouncing off of each other in the tight quarters that you're in. So it's just never a good it's never a good work environment to be in. So what is the solution to this, right? Like, where's the end to this? Is there an end to how we relate trauma to our relationships and how we communicate those things, and etc. Blah blah blah. So awareness of these patterns is the first step in breaking the cycle of abuse. I notice therapy can be particularly effective with helping people understand their past and recognizing how it affects their present relationships and developing healthier patterns. I am personally interested in cognitive behavioral therapy. I don't know, it just piques my interest. It also sounds cool. But yeah, I haven't really looked too much into that. But it seems like a nice alternative to like regular therapy. I've seen a lot of success stories of CBT and trauma focused therapies. Trauma focused meditation is one thing that I also am very interested in. Stay tuned, don't worry about it. But yeah, it's there are other ways to deal with your trauma other than going to talk to a stranger about your life's problems and think that they have the answers and the end all be all to your shit and who you are. And yeah, most of the time we have the answers within us. We just gotta want to dig deep enough to find them in ourselves. And sometimes it is not easier, but it is a little bit better of a process to have someone else to bounce that off of, and then to like pull those things out of you. But you have to want it. You know what I mean? You have to want it. You have to want to try. And again, no one's perfect. I'm not saying I am. I never did, never was, etc., etc. I feel like the only reason I always mention that is because people always try to say, oh, you think you're so perfect. Nah. Nah, brah. I'm just down to talk about the good and the bad, and I'm definitely down to go deep. So, pause. No diddy, as my cousins would say. They are foolish. Whoops. The skimpity toilet is also something they say, which who the fuck knows? Slang is crazy. Yeah. If you do need not help, but if you do need like assistance with that, I'll try to post some stuff about cognitive behavioral therapy, things of that nature. I know they have those programs out now, Hims and Hers they just, to me, it's just like a pill situation, which I'm not cool with pills or a lot of this Eastern medicine shit. Western, excuse me. Pardon me. But yeah, anyway. Thanks again so much for joining me. My name is Kilo. This is the Chaos Effect Mind, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Let's finish off the summer strong. You dig?